Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate rolling on until 7 o'clock p.m. today. All sorts of fired up to have you guys with us. Josh Pate joining us at 4:20 p.m. Your upset picks of the week on the show. We've got Kelley Ford in the very, very next segment of the show. You will not believe what Coach Prime had to say about something we're going to open the show with today. We've got Truth Serum, we've got your upset picks, and we've got you.
And we've got a chance for you to win tickets to college basketball, Maryland, Clemson, UAB, and Davidson in a tournament in Asheville. We get your chance to win those tickets coming up later in the show.
Absolutely, we do. In the meantime, here's how you can touch base. 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-FANFONE. That's 844-326-3663. The upset pick contest opens in an hour. My upset pick is due in 100 minutes. And as yet, I do not know who I am picking in my upset pick this week. You know, some weeks on the upset pick contest, it's a dearth of options. Like, brother, you are literally in Death Valley. Like, I need to try to find something here. This week, it's like I've got so many options, I don't know where to go. That's what I feel as I'm looking at these games. Josh Pate joining us. When is it fair to judge a head coach? Is it too soon to make any judgment on Shane Beamer? And to what degree are the police who want to be all over Michigan right now, to what degree are they on point? Would the Big Ten dare to cut off its nose with Michigan despite its face, or would the college football playoff dare pull a morality clause in their voting process? And of course, my friends, that is where we open up today with the Michigan saga. Now, Diesel, if you would be so kind, I sent, just for your viewing pleasure, okay, the most damning video of what Michigan has done, and it took place in last year's Ohio State game. I sent the video of it to you on the Fan Upstate Twitter, okay? And all I want from you is to watch the video and tell me what you see and tell me what you think, because I got to be honest with you guys, like, everyone wants to tie you down to these viewpoints that you have. Everyone wants you to be married to these viewpoints. The more I hear about this Michigan saga, the more worried for them that I am. Okay? Because there's a whole host of different talking points on this. All right? Some are saying, well, the NCAA has a witch hunt against Jim Harbaugh. Yeah, they do. They do. That's clear. But they're also finding stuff when they do this treasure hunt.
So I'm watching this video right now, and I see Ohio State come off the ball like they're gonna call an audible. The Michigan sideline looks, instead of looking at the play, which appears to be somewhere around the 20-yard line or so, they look straight across the field at the Ohio State sideline, wherever they're making their play call, and they look at it, and then they all point up in the air. Pass. It's going to be a pass. It's going to be a pass.
Is that one of four? Is that a route concept? Does the finger pointing up, is that what that means to you, Diesel? You read that as pass, right?
Yeah, I read that as a pass.
Okay, so the Michigan has a clue in as what Ohio State is doing. Now, do you remember what happened last year, Diesel, when Ohio State played Michigan? It wasn't pretty for Ohio State. Now, who won the national championship last year, Diesel? Remember? Who won?
I don't.
Georgia won the national championship last year. Do you remember what happened when Georgia played Ohio State in the college football playoff this year?
No, I don't.
It was you okay there?
Well, when you don't tell me what we're talking about and you throw these things at me out of the blue, I don't know what you're asking me.
No. It's like,
and that's a very open concept of, do you remember what happened in the national championship? Yeah. No, I don't.
That's all it is an open concept.
No, I don't.
All it is an open concept. So yeah, it's an open concept. And what happened when Georgia played Ohio State was Ohio State led till the very end. They led till the very, very end, okay, of that game. And Georgia won at the very, very end of that contest, right? And then what happened? Georgia rolled TCU. So you're watching Georgia play to the very end against Ohio State, after you watched Michigan dominate Ohio State, and you're putting up the little emoji here. You're saying, well, wait a minute. I just saw Michigan lose to TCU. I saw Michigan lose to TCU at the Open, right? And then I'm seeing Georgia really struggle with Ohio State, but Michigan rolled Ohio State, so this isn't making a lot of sense. Then, okay, you have people saying, well, the rule is dumb. This rule enacted in 1994. This rule enacted in 1994 in college football, that you can't have video equipment, stealing signs on the sidelines, et cetera, et cetera. You can't do it. Enacted in 1994. Okay? The rule is dumb, gets no sympathy from me whatsoever.
How do we know that this video doesn't show that the Michigan sideline figured out their signs in the middle of a game? This doesn't prove that they electronically stole and then studied their signs to figure them out. They could have easily figured this out in the middle of the game.
I hear Ace of Base in my mind. I saw the sun and it opened up my mind. I saw the sign. I mean, that's what Michigan must be feeling when they've got these ideas.
Madcraft says if your signs stay stagnant all year, that's on you and you alone. It's partially ridiculous. Yeah, baseball managers change their signs up multiple times throughout the season. You have to do that.
Number 3, and this is one of my all-time favorites because so many people do it for every single argument. Everyone is doing it. Okay. Still no excuse. And number 3, show me the evidence that everyone's doing it. We got a P1 Michigan fan listener, Michigan J. Todd. Michigan J. Todd, show me the evidence that everyone is doing it. Number 4, Harbaugh didn't know. That's juicy, right? No, he didn't know. Everyone's jumping up and down around him, pointing to the sky.
Scotty doesn't know.
He didn't know.
Harbaugh knew.
Scotty doesn't know.
Love that movie.
Eurotrip.
Great movie.
Eurotrip.
Yeah.
Who was the actor that was singing that?
That was Matt Damon.
That is on the list to watch with the wifey. That was such a good movie.
A lot of nudity in that movie.
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
Maybe scratch that.
Definitely don't watch it with a kid.
Definitely not. So it's your responsibility to know. It's happening within your program. I don't believe that he doesn't know, number 1. Point number 2, it's your responsibility to know. It's your responsibility to know what the hell your team is doing. Okay? Ignorance of the law is not a get out of jail free card from the law. Right? And then my favorite among all of these excuses has got to be, well, it offers no competitive advantage. It really doesn't. Really, no competitive advantage can be found here. Well, if that's the case, why are you doing it? Why are you doing it if it doesn't offer a competitive advantage? Because the last thing I saw was Michigan destroying Ohio State, and then Ohio State coming this close to beating Georgia. And that didn't make sense to my eyes, especially when I saw Michigan lose to TCU, right? I saw them lose in that game. They had a month to plan for TCU signals, right? They had a month to plan for this. They couldn't do it. Couldn't get it done. Couldn't do it. So between all of these excuses, guys, it offers no competitive advantage. Harbaugh didn't know. Everybody is doing it. The rule is dumb. And as you look at this, throughout, do any of these hold water to you? Do any of these, as you're looking at these excuses, do any of these get Michigan out of a heaping of trouble? It does seem to me like the NCAA is digging especially closely at Michigan. But every time they do, they're finding something. Jim Harbaugh has poked the NCAA for years. You poke the bear, bad things happen to you, right? He's poked the NCAA for years.
He had a chance to get out last year. He could have been in the NFL right now.
And he didn't do it, right? He didn't do it. So, and the NCAA is coming after him But you'd like to think, folks, that if the police search your car, they're not going to find anything that's going to get you in trouble. Come search my car. You're not going to find anything in there that's going to be incriminating to me. Okay? Every time the NCAA searches Michigan, and they are admittedly searching them harder than anybody else, they're finding something. So is it a witch hunt? The rule is dumb. Everyone is doing it. Harbaugh didn't know. It offers no competitive advantage. Do any of these BS excuses hold any water to you whatsoever? Do any of these BS excuses hold any water to you? 71307 on the madworldattractions.com text line. Listen, Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, comments right here about the Michigan sign-stealing saga, and he says it's only part of the equation to winning a football game.
I don't know how accurate that stuff is. I mean, everyone's trying to get an edge, get whatever edge they can. You could have someone's whole game plan. They could mail it to you. You still got to stop it. And football is not as pronounced as baseball. If I know a curveball is coming, I got you. With football, I don't give a darn if you know a sweep is coming. You still got to stop it.
You do, but it helps. It helps, doesn't it? Right? I mean, it helps knowing what the other team is going to do. It helps having a clue, having an idea, right? You are trying to get a competitive advantage. Now, I can tell you guys that I don't understand why it is a rule that you can't have somebody on the sideline with a regular phone trying to watch what the other team is doing. Why? Because you can see it plain as day. Okay? You can see it plain as day. If your wife is getting changed naked in front of the window and your window is open, is it somebody's fault outside if they see her nudity? No. Close the damn window, right? Close the damn window. Matt Rule addressed this the other day, Diesel, and he said that, look, we should be using technology, microphone technology inside the headset so you don't have to deal with this stuff.
That's why I change in front of the window naked.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Is
yeah. It's your fault for getting an eye full. Yeah. Teach you a lesson.
So, I mean, I can dispute the rule, and I can agree with you that the rule is dumb, okay? Because I can buy a ticket. I can film the signals with my hands on my phone to the best of my ability. I can then send that email to the University of Florida. I don't know how you enforce that. Now, you can prevent a guy from coming into the stadium with all this camera equipment, this hyper zoom stuff. But if I can see from the opposing sideline a bunch of signage going on, and then I see what play the team runs, okay, this is not that hard to decipher. Matt Rule is right. Matt Rule has a point, right? He's got a point. And I think Michigan is cruising for a bruising this year. And it's going to be fascinating to see if the Big Ten comes down on them, if the College Football Playoff Committee comes down on them. Is this going to be a situation like the MLB Hall of Fame voters keeping Pete Rose and Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens out? They're just going to decide that they're out. Michigan, we're sorry. We're going to decide that you're out. At this point, folks, you can't put it past them. Yeah, it is a witch hunt on Michigan, but they've got a bullseye on you. They're grinding their axe on you, and every time they do, they find something. And all I can tell you guys is this doesn't look good. This doesn't look good. You're doing something, taking part in an illegal activity that you know is giving you a competitive advantage. Okay? Whether or not Harbaugh didn't know or knew is irrelevant. It's happening in his program. If you say everyone's doing it, show me evidence. If you say the rule is dumb, I'll tell you it's the rule. If you tell me it's a witch hunt, okay. When the cops show up to look at your car, make sure there's nothing in there that's going to get you in trouble. Every time they're finding stuff on Michigan.
It amazes me how many times people who have illegal things in their car, weapons, drugs, whatever, have busted taillights. If you're trafficking, this is a little piece of advice for anybody who may be driving up and down 85 with illegal drugs in your car. Make sure your taillights work. Make sure your headlights work. Use your turn signal every damn time. Like, it's amazing how many people get pulled over for dumb stuff.
Texter says, if you aren't cheating, you aren't trying. Of course, I want everything on the up and up, but I wasn't born last night. So if one is doing it, I think plenty are. Yeah, but if you're the one who's caught, you're the one who plays the consequence. You don't get out of it because everyone else is quote unquote doing it. Show me the evidence other people are doing it. Show it to me.
Shane Whited makes a very good point. He says nothing will happen this year, 2024 at the earliest. Yeah, the NCAA will come down on next year's team.
Yeah, but what about the Big Ten? They're not held to that standard.
Right.
What about the college football playoff committee and how they vote?
The question you just asked, are they going to come down on the best team in college football this year? Probably not. That's not how they operate. You know, they take wins away from 5 years ago, like that actually does anything. They're going to punish the Michigan team next year or in 2025, like that's going to do anything to this team. That's not how they operate, okay? That's not what they're going to do.
Well, the NCAA, no. But there's nothing preventing the college football playoff committee from keeping Michigan out, right? Who knows?
Out of the Brand Power Invitational? No, they're not going to keep Michigan out of that.
Who knows? Or the Big Ten coming down and saying, this is damning evidence. You know, we played for you the clip of Greg Schiano saying there's some shady stuff going on in this game. And he didn't elaborate what it was. He said there's some shady stuff going on here. Diesel's seen the video. I mean, how shady does that look? They check to the sideline. They call something. Michigan's pointing up. It wouldn't be the first time a team in football knows what the other team is doing. In baseball, this is called tipping your pitches, right? But guys, on some level, this isn't that much different than what the Astros did. Banging in the trash can. They're using technology to get an advantage, and you saw what happened to the Astros throughout baseball. I mean, they were blacklisted throughout baseball right now. The Astros were.
I don't try to absolve the Astros.
Well, I'm not, Diesel. I'm not. Like, they were rightfully blacklisted throughout baseball. Wiretaps under their uniforms, banging of the trash can, depending on the pitch. Is Michigan not doing the exact same thing as that? Okay. And so this always falls along morality lines, right? Like everyone wants to see, well, let's see your closet, Mark Ryan. What's in your closet? Well, it's not about what's in my closet. It's that they found a violation of the rules. And do not assume that Michigan's going to get off scot-free on this season. Do not assume that, my friends. We've got Kelley Ford joining us next right here on the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark Ryan and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate. It's Offsides, Mark Ryan and Diesel. We are the Fan Upstate, rolling on until 7 o'clock p.m. today. Your upset picks free to come in at 4 o'clock p.m. this afternoon. Got updated standings. Guess who is back on the standings board? That's right. Guess who is still over?
Honestly, I think it's more impressive that I hadn't got a single one right.
Oh, that's right.
It's harder to do.
You know, I will wear this 40th place in our own upset pick contest, Diesel. I will wear 40th place.
Technically, I'm perfect on the season.
Yeah, I will wear it with pride. I certainly will. Look at the top of the standings board. Boy, you know, Josh Pate is making a name. Josh Pate, I will say this about Josh Pate's score. He's halfway there in the upset pick contest. And our next guest, Kelley Ford, is in the top 25. So how about that? He's sitting there with 9.5 points, and he joins us right now from thelines.com. Follow him on Twitter at KFordRatings. Kelley, I've asked you a lot the last few days, and we are watching a historic level of incompetence from both Clemson and South Carolina thus far. Right now, if the winning percentage that they have today, Kelley, is the winning percentage that they ended the season with, it would be the 7th worst combined winning percentage in the last 100 years for Clemson and South Carolina. Did some research on that the other day. Worst combined season, 1998. They were a combined 4-18, a winning percentage of 182. This is not so much a numbers question, Kelley, but can I ask just your general assessment of where things have gone so awry for both schools?
Yeah, Mark. Hey, I didn't have the details there of the historical significance of how, poor these seasons have been. If I'm looking at my numbers, I know you said it's not a numbers question, but just look at my numbers as kind of a baseline. I had Clemson coming in at this year, number 7 in my power ratings. They're now number 19. And I get it. Power ratings are not resume rankings. It's not, that's not how we evaluate a team at the end of the year with wins and losses. But just from an overall, where has it gone wrong for these teams? I think power ratings is an okay place to start. South Carolina started the year 36. They're now number 47. So both teams have been downgraded in the power ratings by a few points. I don't think from a power rating standpoint, I don't think these teams are quite as bad as their records suggest they are. I'm not suggesting that they've been, quote, unlucky to lose these games or to not win these games, but I don't think that the record is truly reflective of the strength of these teams. And I feel like for South Carolina fans, they should actually maybe appreciate what I'm saying this time, because I feel like in the past, Mark, I've shared with you, hey, I don't know if South Carolina is really as good as their record is. Now I'm saying I'm not sure South Carolina and Clemson, for that matter, are really quite as bad as their records are. I mean, you look at Clemson, they're 2 overtime losses away from being, 6-1 on the year. And if the second half doesn't get away from them against Duke, I get it. There's a lot of what ifs and shoulda, coulda, woulda. But just in a vacuum, Clemson's not that many plays away from being 7-0. Now, you only beat Wake by 5 points, so you could be 3-4 too. I get it. It goes both ways. And then for South Carolina, it's a little bit less clean cut for them. But again, the Florida game was there for them. You can make a case that, they hung with Georgia for the first half, maybe the first 3 quarters. So these teams' records aren't good. I agree with you. They're underperforming relative to expectations. That's not good. But I don't think these teams are quite as bad as their records indicate.
Kelley, what's popping up on all of your rankings and your ratings that's really surprising you at this point? Like, for whatever reason, there's an anomaly going on and you can't really explain it.
I think what's surprising me the most right now, Diesel, is the fact that we still really haven't seen teams break away in the power rating. Now, Michigan and even Ohio State, people are starting to say, well, Michigan's the best team, and it's not that close. Listen, Michigan's number 1 for me. I agree in my power ratings now. For the first time all year, they're number 1. They are about 3 points better than my number 3 team in the power ratings. Them and Ohio State have about a 2.5-point gap between 2 and 3. So we're starting maybe to see some teams break away, but it's the story of the year for me. We just haven't seen a team or group of teams break away and really establish themselves as a dominant force in college football this year. You think back to the CFP era, it was Alabama for years and years. It was Clemson, 2016, 2018. It's been Georgia most recently the last couple of years. We just don't have that team. Michigan, Ohio State are on a collision course, of course, for a game in about a month's time. So they're going to play each other, but there's still time. Teams can still break away. There's no breakaway at the top. Alabama and Georgia, both being, the worst that I've had them power rated respectively in a long time. Alabama's at number 8. That's the worst they've been since 2008. Georgia at number 10. That's the worst they've been since 2016. That was Kirby's first year in Athens. So the recent powers are still really good, but they're not pulling away from the pack like we've seen during the CFP era.
Kelley Ford joining us here on Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel. We are the Fan Upstate. I noticed, Kelley, over in the ACC, you've got Duke with the second best odds to make the ACC championship game. Essentially, you've got Florida State in, and then it's going to be who the blender spits out between Duke, Louisville, and North Carolina. Is this a situation where you agree with your odds? The odds essentially say, even though Duke is the quote-unquote favorite, there's a 2 out of 3 chance they're not going to be the team that's in there.
Yeah, Mark, the ACC is wild right now. Florida State, I mean, they're essentially in. I mean, they haven't clinched it mathematically, but for all intents and purposes, they're going to be in Charlotte. My numbers give it a 99% chance to happen. Right now, the Seminoles have a 71% chance to win that game. So, but then you're looking at a grouping of teams, Duke, North Carolina, and Louisville. And Mark, I've said this a couple times this week. It's not every week. Actually, I'm not sure I've ever seen it. Duke went into last week with the third best chance to make the ACC title game by my numbers. They then lost a conference game. And now coming into this week, they have the second best chance to make it. That's what happens when the team that was second, North Carolina, loses a game very unexpectedly. I mean, I think I had them by 24 points or something like that over Virginia. They stubbed their toe. Now they fall behind Duke. So Duke actually is now in better standing relative to number 1, 2, 3, 4 favorite in the ACC after a loss than they were last week before they picked up that conference loss. So yeah, this week's game between Duke and Louisville is absolutely massive. The winner's going to have a 50-50 chance to make the game in Charlotte. The loser's going to be down to a 10 to 15% chance. Other than Duke, North Carolina, which is coming up in a couple weeks, this Duke Louisville game has the most conference championship game leverage left in the regular season. So if Duke wins this one and then beats North Carolina, I mean, that'll do it. If Louisville finds a way to get it done here, Duke, North Carolina is going to have even more significance in a couple of weeks. But one of those 3 teams, I think, is going to join Florida State. If I had to guess right now, I know the numbers say Duke. I'm going North Carolina. I think North Carolina would probably do enough to get over the line there, even though my numbers right now suggest Duke has the very slight edge currently.
Kelley, was there even a single data point in your ratings that could have predicted Virginia pulling the upset over North Carolina? Was there anything that said this position group for Virginia is actually much better than what the team's record is?
I'm going back. I'm looking at it right now here, Diesel. And as I go back and look at that, I mean, I'm not going to lie to you guys. Like, no, there wasn't. There isn't. Again, I think I made that spread like 24 points. I think the Vegas spread was, 23.5 or something like that. I mean, this was a monumental upset. This is 2 weeks in a row, mind you guys, that we've had an ACC game of the week upset over on the CW. I know people like to laugh in the summer when the CW got some rights. Well, hey, Pitt went down to, who was it? Pitt went down to
Pitt beat Louisville. Pitt beat Louisville.
Yeah, Louisville went down to Pitt 2 weeks ago, and then last week, of course, North Carolina falls to Virginia on the CW. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Clemson's playing on the CW this week against NC State. So I don't know. Look out, Tiger fans, but Diesel, no. To answer your question, that was an absolute shocker. There was nothing in there that would have suggested that. I haven't seen anything from Virginia all year. Yes, they had just beaten FCS, William & Mary. Yes, they were coming off a bye. So if you want to say, hey, they had that going for them, okay. But really, there was nothing that suggested Virginia was going to be competitive in that game, let alone win it.
Kelley, it's interesting. The Gamecocks and their 2 road games, Missouri and A&M. I trusted myself last week over the lines, over the analytics, over guys like you. And take this, Kelley. Mark Ryan 1, Kelley Ford 0. The truth of the matter is, Kelley, you've got like 99 points on me. But all the analytics and all the numbers said that game was going to be close, South Carolina and Missouri. I didn't see it. I bet Missouri -7. I never felt like my bet was threatened in any way. I felt like before the season, South Carolina had a better shot to win at A&M than I did at Missouri. Missouri just happens to be having a great year, but my feeling doesn't change. I still believe this is going to be a game that the Gamecocks are in, and I'm curious what your numbers say about this one.
Yeah, credit to you, Mark. That was a good call last week, saying that game wouldn't be close. I certainly thought it would be much closer than it was. It's dangerous since you just said we disagreed and you won. I'll disagree with you again in the sense that the pregame win expectancy for South Carolina is lower this week at A&M than it was last week at Missouri. Last week I gave it a 36% chance. This week it's just a 16% chance. My numbers like A&M by about 2 touchdowns. I mean, 14 points on the nose is what my numbers make it right now. If I look at, breaking down this game, South Carolina has a good offense. It's a top 25 unit for me by my numbers. Unfortunately, for South Carolina, Texas A&M has the number 6 defense in the entire country. This is a really good defense in College Station. It's going to be the best opposing defense that South Carolina plays all year by my numbers. Yes, I have the Texas A&M defense right now better than I have the Georgia defense as things stand. And then on the other side of the ball, the Texas A&M offense is better than I thought they would be in the preseason. They're currently a top 30 unit for me. And the issue that I've had with South Carolina all year is this defense, which is right now power rated a season low, number 89 on the defensive side of the ball. I just don't see South Carolina being able to slow down A&M enough. This game's on the road for South Carolina. I mean, that's working against them too. I make it 2 touchdowns, Mark. Could it end up being a 1-score game? Sure. But I don't see the path for South Carolina in this one. I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again. I don't see it in this one.
Kelley, you got to be in a little bit of a weird spot, right? Because when you do these shows, people act like your model's opinion is your opinion. In other words, your model speaks for you all the time. And I'm going to ask you this question, Kelley. What do you disagree with most about your model? Like you see a number that's spat out. My biggest issue with the model last year, and it wasn't just your model, it was every model, as you know, was Texas, right? I just what are we doing here? They lose and they don't fall in your model. And I understand it's predictive, it's forward-looking, et cetera. But where do you say, model, you might be the sexiest model in existence, but you're wrong?
Yeah, that's something that I'm always looking at, Mark. And you're right. People do. I personally have a hard time sometimes disassociating Kelley Ford ratings the model and Kelley Ford the person. I did just go against earlier, right? I said Duke has the second best chance, but I'm leaning North Carolina in that ACC race to join Florida State in Charlotte. To me, if I'm looking at it, Mark, like right now, I'm going to my power ratings. I'm kind of in the top 10. I know I've just got done talking about Georgia, and I have them number 10. And this is the worst Georgia team by my numbers since 2016. I don't think Georgia's actually the 10th best team in the country. Like, I think they're better than that. We haven't necessarily seen it, but because we've seen this play out with Georgia before, they kind of mess around, they dilly-dally, and then all of a sudden they'll kick it into gear. This actually might be the week, Mark. I'm sorry to say it. This might be the week that they actually kick it into gear. Of course, they got their big rivalry game with your Florida Gators. So to me, having Georgia at number 10, that's probably too low. I'll also say for me, listen, I took flack for not having USC power rated higher than they were coming into the year. And if I go to I know the USC page, I had them number 8 in the preseason. People are saying, no way. They're way better than that. They're way better than that. And I was like, I'm not sold on the defense. Right now I have them power rated number 16, but I'll tell you what, there are some teams on this list who I have below number 16 who my numbers might make USC a favorite on a neutral field, but I don't think I'd be actually taking USC in the points against some of these teams below them. So Georgia's a team that probably should be higher if I had my opinion baked in. And USC, even at number 16, would probably be a team that I would have lower.
Kelley, power ratings. Who are the best 3 teams in the group of 5?
Best 3 teams in the group of 5 right now. Give me 1 second. Let me pull it up here. We actually have SMU, who has now snuck into the top. Not snuck in. They've earned their way in. They are number 26 in my power ratings. That's the best G5 team. After that, we have to go down to Air Force at number 39. And then how about this? A couple teams. I'll give you 4. South Alabama sitting at number 3 on the G5 list at number 40. But James Madison, the Dukes, are undefeated, of course. They're number 14 on my most deserving rankings. They come in number 41 in the power ratings. Tulane right after that at 43. Those are your G5 teams in the top 50 for me in the power ratings.
One game we haven't touched on yet, Oregon at Utah. And I believe, Kelley, I've got a list of 4 teams that can win the national championship. All right. Oregon, Washington, Georgia, and Michigan. Those are the 4 teams I think that are frankly good enough. All right. But I think this is as tricky a matchup on the road at Utah as it gets. And if you told me right now, Kelley, that Utah would be +2 in the turnover margin, I'll pick them because that's exactly what you can't do against a team like Utah that doesn't beat itself. Without Cam Rising, who's now shut down for the year, do the Utes have a shot?
Mark, this is my number 1 game of the week by my watchability ratings. I'm absolutely ecstatic for this one. Here's a stat for you, Mark. I don't think enough people are talking about it, and it's not necessarily actionable, but it's a real thing. Utah, if you take away the COVID year, which is just weird all around, Utah has not lost a game at Rice-Eccles Stadium since 2018. I mean, it's been 5 years if you take out the COVID year of weirdness since Utah's lost a game at home. That's absolutely insane, in my opinion. My number's like Oregon by 7 in this one, but yes, Utah does have a chance, and the winner of this game is going to be in the number 2 spot in terms of chances to make the Pac-12 championship game behind Washington currently. The winner, Oregon-Utah, is going to be number 2. Oregon, they still have a chance if they lose it. Utah, I don't think does. Of course, not having Cam Rising, and that's official now, is going to hurt the Utes. But if you would have told Utah fans that, hey, Cam Rising won't have played at all, you're going to be 6-1 heading into a home game against Oregon the last week of October. And that's where things stand. I think Utah fans would have taken that. So I think this Utah team is really, really good. The Oregon offense is number 2 in the country for me. The Utah defense is number 10 nationally. That's going to be a fantastic matchup. So, yes, Oregon's my favorite. Utah absolutely can win, and I don't think we can overemphasize enough the importance of this home field for Utah. I think the game's at like 1:30 local time, so it's not going to be a night environment or anything. But, Mark, your Florida Gators know what it's like to go play there. It's a tough place, and I fully expect Utah to give Oregon everything they can
You've
handle.
noticed I haven't brought up Florida a single time. We're not going to jinx this. I like the momentum. I want Georgia, and I don't think I'm going to be able to successfully pull this off, Kelley. I want Georgia to come out sleepwalking against the Gators the same way they have against just about every other opponent. And I know that if we use this platform to make it a big game, that has a lower percentage chance of happening. So I'm going to stay hush-hush about Georgia, Georgia. And hopefully that'll be the case. I'll be a really happy guy if I feel like Florida's in the game at halftime. Kelley, great stuff as always, man. Thank you so very much.
Yeah, appreciate you, Mark. You and Diesel both. You guys have a great one, and we'll talk again soon.
All right. Thank you guys very, very much. The Major League Baseball postseason, right, had results the last couple of days that have just made me throw up my hands, all right, with empathy for the losing teams. And I'll tell you why. You've never before heard a better example of don't blame the player, blame the game. That's next. It's Offsides, Mark Ryan and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate, rolling on until 7 o'clock p.m. today. Fantastic to have you guys with us. Let's see what you guys are saying on the MadWorldAttractions.com text line. Let's see here. Texter says, Harbaugh knew about it, and he don't care. He'll just go to the NFL. Yeah, but the NFL doesn't want him, honestly. The NFL is trending towards the hip, young, offensive-minded Mike McDaniel. Jim Harbaugh is old school, set in his ways, doesn't interview well. He's wanted to go back to the NFL. They haven't wanted him. Let's see here. Win if you can, lose if you must, but always cheat. Just ask the Florida Gators and the Tennessee Vols. Yeah, based on what? Based on what? I mean, it's just conjecture, nothing more, smack talk, nothing more, nothing less. Guys, I feel awful, okay? And I do. There's a lot of people I care about in the city of Houston, all right? There's a lot of people I know that are from Philadelphia. And the craziest thing is both Houston and Philadelphia went back home in their league championship series up 3-2 with 2 games at home. I mean, it's like the only closer way you could have to winning the series is if you won it on the road, if the series was actually over. You're up 3-2. You got 2 games at home. You got to win one of 2 home games in order to win the series. When the series starts, right, that's what you're going for. That's what everybody wants. If you said to the Astros, okay, you're going to be up 3-2 going back to Houston, how do you feel? You're celebrating. You say that to Texas. You're up 3-2 going back to Texas for 2 games. How do you feel? You're celebrating. And guys, I just like it is my belief, okay, that the postseason system in baseball is just so damn random, okay, that it's like everyone's trying to make sense of it, and you can't. Can you make sense of what marble the roulette wheel spits out? You're trying to figure it out. Man, why did the Diamondbacks outplay us? Well, they did. In these 7 games, they did. But guess what else I'd like to tell you about the Diamondbacks? Arizona ended the season on a 4-game losing streak, and Arizona had a 9-game losing streak in August. It's now October. 2 months ago, they had a 9-game losing streak. Okay? They ended the season on a 4-game losing streak. To those who say, well, it's all about who's playing the best now. Yeah, a 4-game losing streak. That losing streak would have knocked them out of any of these series, okay? And I'm just telling you, you look at the World Series, there's 6 seeds, right, in each league, 6 seeds. The 5 seed is in the World Series from the American League. The 6 seed is in the World Series from the National League. The worst seed and the second to worst seed are playing for it all. Does that mean they didn't earn it? No. According to this system, they earned it as much as anybody. But, folks, compared to any other sports, okay, if you ran it back, what would the result be? This one would have the most variable outcome of any other sport. If you ran this postseason back, do you think you have the Rangers and the Diamondbacks playing again in the World Series? If you say yes, you're not grasping the randomness of baseball, a sport where the worst team wins 40% of the time and the best team wins 60% of the time, right? You're not grasping it. So the 5-seed Rangers are playing the 6-seed Diamondbacks in the World Series.
But you ain't bona fide.
That's right. So if you guys ran this back, who do you think wins? Like if you started the playoffs again right now, who's in? I can't say the Braves would be in, although they'd have a fighting shot. Do the Braves have to play the Phillies again? All right, you've got the 1-seed Braves and the 2-seed Dodgers. Neither made the league championship series. You had the 1-seed Orioles and the 2-seed Astros. Only one made the league championship series. If what you want is the most random postseason you can devise, then baseball is succeeding here, right? Because this is just as random as it gets. Wild cards have made the World Series 11 times, okay? So if you want it to be less random, then you need a different World Series system. Just about every year in the NBA, I feel like if you ran the postseason back, like the Denver Nuggets would still be your NBA champion. Last year in the NFL, it was interesting because that was such a good Super Bowl. Chiefs and Philadelphia Eagles. If you ran that back, maybe the Eagles win, right? But it's definitely down to those 2 teams. If you ran this back, I don't think the Rangers or the Diamondbacks are in the World Series. Not either one. And Arizona's gotten hot at the right time, and the Rangers have a great 1 through 9 lineup, right? And you're like, Mark, well, you're taking something away from their accomplishment. I'm just telling you, this is put it in the mixer, drop a marble in a roulette wheel, and then try to explain the results that it spits out. You're seeing very little difference between the best teams and the worst teams that get into the postseason once the postseason begins. And it's got to be maddening to the investment you make as fans all year long. When we come back, as soon as the clock hits 4 o'clock, your upset picks go live, my friends. The upset pick contest is back right here on the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. Offsides, Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate. It's one of our favorite segments of the week each week. The host of the best college football show in America, the Late Kick Show with Josh Pate, joins us right here on Offsides. You can check out Late Kick on YouTube Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. But the best part is, if you have to miss any of that live, it's all right there for you on YouTube. And not only that, oftentimes they cut up some really interesting clips, and it's all over social media at Late Kick Josh as well, where you can get it. The Once Upon a Saturday tour is going to the artist formerly known as the world's largest outdoor cocktail party this week. Good afternoon, my friend. In terms of vitriol and vitriolic rivalries, where does Florida, Georgia rank to you, my friend?
Mark, it's up there now. It's more up there when both teams are top 10. Like you remember not too long ago when you had Urban Meyer at Florida and they, Georgia and Mark Richt were looking for a spark and they do the whole touchdown and entire team voluntarily takes the 15-yard penalty to celebrate. Now that felt like just pure unadulterated hatred to me. I loved it. And lately the conversation's been more, how wide is the gap between these programs? Well, it's tough for the hatred to permeate the veins like it needs to and just course through the national the national college football scene the way it needs to with it set up as it currently is. However, all it takes is one big upset. And I don't know how you define big. It's 14.5-point line right now. But all it takes is Billy Napier planting his flag and Florida planting their flag one time. And then I think you've revved the engine on the rivalry again from a national scene.
So, Josh, you taught me this 4 or 5 years ago. If the upset were to happen, how does it happen?
All right. The first thing that I looked at when they went and beat South Carolina, Florida got a big win on the road. The thing that troubled me was even in the win, Graham Mertz got pressured 24 times. They got sacked 4 times. And I think that Georgia's more capable of doing that to Florida than South Carolina was. So the first thing is they've got to give him a chance to make plays. They've got to run the ball fairly well, but they've then also got to give Graham Mertz a chance to make plays. The second thing is you need to make sure on third down you have the situation for Georgia where Carson Beck has to throw. And then you find out, do they really have guys ready to step up in the absence of Brock Bowers? I'm a personal believer that the key for, replacing Brock Bowers is not as simple as the next tight end steps up. I think it's a collective effort. Like defensively, you could have a position group like outside linebackers step up and play outside their mind just because they know collectively we as a team, we got to pick up the slack. But in the passing game, if you don't have to account for him, we haven't seen anyone play Georgia like this. We haven't seen anyone in a big premier SEC game, capable athletes on defense who know 19's not on the field. Let's shift our coverage accordingly, and we'll see. Listen, Georgia is very confident. Carson Beck's going to have a career day Saturday. They fully believe he's capable of that. Mark, I've had people tell me before career days are imminent, and then it goes the absolute opposite way. So that's the path for Florida. They need the third down statistics to shift a little bit. They need, basically they need that whole has been to not become will be. They just need to flip a few things. And that's the beauty of getting to a bye week with a lot left to play for. There's a lot of energy in the building. And if you haven't maximized your potential, which I don't think either of these teams have, frankly, you just never know who gets shot out of the cannon more coming into this game.
Josh Pate of the Late Kick Show joining us here on Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, the fan upstate. Josh, my procrastination on this has reached a screeching halt. There is an audio montage here that we have for you. Some of this audio you will recognize, some you have never heard before. It is all in your honor, sir, and I can no longer delay the inevitable.
The Vegas number right now is Clemson -4. We think the wrong team's favored. We think Miami -1 is the right number. It's just been horrifically skewed. We're going to say the turnover monster does not completely devour Miami like an unstoppable rebel force this week. And we're going to not only take Miami to cover, we're going to take them to win the game outright.
Josh Pate says the wrong team is favored. Josh Pate says that team is Miami. Josh Pate is wrong. And Diesel, I invite you to timestamp this at 3:05:21 And if I am wrong, play it on Monday. Oh, he played it on
and
Monday,
believe you
Josh.
me, I did.
He played it on Monday, Josh. He played it on Tuesday, and he's playing it today. Josh, how do you do that voodoo that you do?
Nothing's wrong with the connection. This is just me basking for a second. I am standing outside in Nashville. It is a beautiful sunny day. There's sunshine coming from the speaker of this phone now as well. I feel great. And mind you, just in case anyone's new to the listening audience, welcome aboard. You're listening to the right show there. It wasn't too long ago that you were asking me how we picked Louisville as the wrong team favored there, and they beat Notre Dame. How did we do that? Here's how you do it, Mark. Get a data scientist to build a really good computer model for you. Check, one, box. And number two, understand how violently perception shifts sometimes in college football based off one or two results. And just understand how to ignore that. And so in this game, you had Miami, which I think is a very good team, that just totally imploded against Georgia Tech. And then they turned the ball over a ton against North Carolina. Well, here's the thing. The public looks at that and they recast Miami, like they redefine Miami. That is not the way to properly interpret football results. What you do is you look at what the mean would be, the average output of this team, and you had two extreme examples to the left of what the average should be, which just screams all the more the expectation nationally. The point spread, even the odds-making expectation, is going to be skewed to the left a little bit. Well, that just gives you more value on the right. And sure enough, all of a sudden we see Miami, I think, +1 or +2 turnovers against Clemson, and you get the result you got. Now, even with backup quarterback, I still loved riding with Miami, even when I knew Emory Williams was starting. I've explained my philosophy to you on how much value there is on betting backup quarterbacks in college football. I love doing it. Everyone runs away from it. I run towards it. But I know you also pointed out how important you thought the bye week was for Clemson. And that's something I worked on a lot in the summer. I had a guy who's way smarter than me do a lot of research on what kind of program and what kind of team truly benefits from a bye week. And it won't shock you to know the higher caliber coaching staffs benefit disproportionately from the bye week. I'm not sure I call Clemson a high caliber coaching staff right now. And so I thought there'd be a minimal impact. I thought it'd look just like any other week for them. And maybe they got healed up, but I don't think they're overly special athlete-wise right now anyway. So it wasn't like they were going to have some position group overpower Miami. And so I thought there was a lot of value there and ended up being right. But look, I'd stand on this mountain even if Miami lost in overtime, because what we're trying to do with a model is we're trying to calibrate a 4-quarter game. So, as far as the model is concerned, that game ended in a tie. So when I told you I think Miami -1 is the right number and it ends tie, that's about as nailed down as you can get that thing.
Josh, what has just happened is that Mark Ryan has anointed you to the position of daddy. And congratulations, I'm going to bestow another honor upon you, making you college football czar. All hail your omnipotence. As your first decree, Josh, you get to reinstate one of the rivalry names that has been deemed untoward. So I want you to pick one of these. Which classic name comes back? The world's largest outdoor cocktail party or the Red River Shootout?
Red River Shootout is the one I'm going to pick. Listen, I still hear a lot of people use cocktail party. They just kind of wink and nod when they say it. But, I mean, these folks have just taken a headfirst dive into Red River rivalry, Red River Showdown. And I'm sitting out here knowing full well why they're doing it. And it's a bunch of meaningless do-goodedness, and it doesn't really accomplish anything. And so, I mean, if you want to sanitize yourself that much, go for it. But I'm out here I'm in the streets. All three of us are in the streets of college football. So we call these rivalries what they deserve to be called. And the Red River Shootout and the world's largest outdoor cocktail party is what those deserve to be called. And I don't even drink. My cocktail is water with ice. And yet I still want to call it a cocktail party.
When I was attending the live taping of the Josh Pate show, I said to the guys in the producer shield, I said, I've wanted to know forever, because Josh doesn't touch wine, doesn't touch anything. What is in the chalice of supremacy? And they said meal. It's water with meal. What's the go-to flavor there, Josh?
That is a black cherry combination right now.
There you
go. And the funny thing is, I'm not the biggest fan of like black cherry flavoring, but the fine folks at Mio, who have chosen not to sponsor the show as of yet, they have made black cherry delicious. And also, remember this time last year, Mark, I had that small incident with cold brew coffee where I lost my vision for a little while.
Oh,
Oops, a month that hasn't.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I switched over to the Mio, and that is 60 milligrams of caffeine per squeeze. So just a couple little shots in water, and you're good to go, man. Get you the same kick as coffee. Breath smells better. Eyesight works a lot better. No light sensitivity. So all the pluses with none of the negatives, at least that I've seen so far.
So, Josh, when we do a 4-hour radio show to prevent the monotony of one voice droning on and on and on, and it's on this show, it's Diesel and I, but I use it on the CBS shows as well. We do format breakers, right? Little format breaking segments. And I'm going to format break this segment with this question because I see you comment on the MLB postseason all the time. Diesel and I are at odds. He has no issue with MLB's postseason. And I have such a strong distaste for the randomness of it. It's not that, Josh, if we have a 12-team playoff, I'm going to moan if the 5 seed faces the 6 seed, but we have a World Series with a 5 seed against a 6 seed. I think it's the most random postseason ever. And I'd ask, Josh, as you're an analytical guy, if you would amend MLB's postseason in any way?
Yeah, I would. I despise it. I love baseball and yet despise it because of the randomness. To me, I got no problem with like the Rangers and Phillies or a Rangers and Arizona.
Yeah.
I mean, look, fair and square. Like they played on the same field by the same rules. Oh, I get all that. No one has to make that point to me. Well, they executed when it was time to execute. Yes, they did. I'm looking at a team that won 20 fewer games than the Atlanta Braves representing the National League in the World Series. And so I ask myself, what is the truest test of deciding which teams are the best? And to me, when you play 162 games, it's the regular season. So I'm not for doing away with the postseason, but I am for disproportionately weighting it even more to reward your accomplishments in the regular season. But baseball thinks they do that, but they don't. They think they do it by giving you a first-round bye, and I hate that because baseball is such a rhythmic game. It is a routine-based game that when you have a team and you sit down for, I think the Braves played 1 game in 6 days, and then all of a sudden you got Philadelphia red hot coming in there. And by the way, the very nature of postseason baseball is those wild card teams, whoever wins the wild card has been playing playoff baseball to even get that spot for a month. So they come in, no matter who it is, red hot. And yet when I present this, it sounds like sour grapes. I know that. I think the Major League Baseball postseason almost feels like a fun mid-season tournament. The randomness of it is such that if you threw it in the middle of the season, I wouldn't have a problem with it. I know we'll never go back to this, but I liked it back when I was a really, really young kid when they just took the 2 best teams from each league that played the championship series, and then the winners went to the World Series. And, if you won 80 games, you weren't good enough. Sorry, try again next year, but that's not the way it'll ever be.
Josh, I'm going to give you another chance to go down with the sanitized and modernized things in college football. One of the things that I hate the most is the sanitized logos that came out in the mid-2000s. So I want to give you a chance to force an old school logo back on a university. I'm thinking Michigan's old school Wolverine, LSU's old school Tiger, NC State's old school Wolfpack logo. Which one is your all-time favorite logo that's no longer in use?
I'll tell you what I'd love to see is, have you ever seen Purdue's old Purdue Pete logo?
I'm looking it up right now. I'm Googling it right now.
Looking right now, yeah.
The one that really looks like it drives a white panel van and offers you candy out the passenger's window.
Yeah, this is outstanding.
Oh, you got to flip this around, Diesel.
I can't. You're going to knock your ring light over.
Okay, here you go. Here you go.
And I'd love to see it come back. I would love to see that thing just waltz along the sideline. I would love to see parents pulling their children away from it and say, come on, honey, let's go home. I would love to see a mascot that genuinely strikes fear in the hearts of people. I don't mean like the old Mike the Tiger, which was a literal tiger on LSU sideline. No, I mean a mascot suit that really makes you question the character of the person inside. I need people to feel a little uncomfortable at my games.
Well, Josh, I'm going to invite you to go back and pull the classic Idaho Vandal mascot logo, because that thing is the thing of nightmares. If you haven't seen it in a while.
Hey, by the way, this show is perfect for me to tell this story. So when I went up to New York this past week to do the CBS stuff, I was working with Rick Neuheisel. So between shows, we were talking about this, like old school logos. He said, hey, you want to see a logo? I used to play high school ball out in Arizona, in Yuma, Arizona. He said, go look up Yuma High School. I go up, look at you. I looked up Yuma High School. Do you know the mascot is the criminal? They're called the Yuma Criminals. And they're Yuma for short. And it still exists today. This is not something that was in another time. They're called the Yuma Criminals today. Now that is standing up against the man.
Oh, it is. I absolutely love that. All right, Josh. I saw what you had to say. We opened on the Michigan Spygate today. And, to me, this feels like college football's version of the Houston Astros. Would the Big Ten dare cut off its nose with Michigan despite its face, or would the CFP committee dare pull a no Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame morality clause on their voting process?
My initial gut reaction was no. Neither one of them are going to do that. They'll just wait. Like everybody in an authoritative position in college football just waits for someone else to do the right thing or whatever they think the right thing is, and just nothing ends up happening. In this case, here's what I do think. I think we're not even close to done with those details coming out. I think everything that's been reported from the Famels and Dellingers of the world will be corroborated. All of that will be documented, and you will have that as evidence. So it won't be a question of whether it happened. The question will be, is the Big Ten ready to take in-season action? Because the NCAA won't be ready to do anything until 2024 at the earliest. So what would impact this year's team? It would be either the Big Ten or it would be the College Football Playoff Committee, just basically leveraging the wording in their committee bylaws and protocols to punish Michigan themselves. There is such little precedent for this. And knowing the bureaucratic nature of these people, mostly spineless, I don't think people are going to have the stones to do that. I could be wrong. We've never seen it. And so what I'm saying is the freedom to do it is there. Like it is, the mechanics to do it are there. I don't know if anyone's actually going to pull that lever, Mark.
Wow. Yeah. And if they do, it's awful for the conference, right? And then it brings to light a whole host of other questions. Does the playoff committee want to go down that rabbit hole of, well, they did this and they did this, and where does it end? Yeah, I think Michigan is likely to get off scot-free this year, and then sometime in 2057 they'll rule on this particular incident. Josh, when is it fair to judge a head coach? People have asked me that a lot about Shane Beamer, year 3. In my studies, Josh, year 3 is often the time when good coaches pop. Obviously, the balloon is the only thing that's popped on Shane Beamer this year. And then you look at a guy like Mike Elko, and wow, you watch the Blue Devils, Josh. They look like Utah overnight. Fundamentally sound, disciplined, tough, don't beat themselves. In the Josh Pate model of life, when do you judge a head coach?
I judge him every day. I start judging results in year 3. And when I say results, I mean wins and losses. So there are major differences in how we define results sometimes. I would also say this, though. With Beamer, they're really bad in several areas of that team right now. I don't think we need to beat the dead horse on that. But I think Ryan Day is something that people need to be paying attention to right now. So Ryan Day, when he first took over Ohio State, they had to outscore people to win. And, the criticism was when he ends up going up against Michigan, he gets out physical and his teams get out physical and put on skates and embarrassed. And so then they go play Georgia. Same thing happens. Well, they got really intentional about redefining the program. In case no one's noticed now, they've won their 2 biggest games without scoring more than 20 points. And it's not like they forgot how to score there. They don't have great quarterback play this year. In the future, they'll be better offensively. But in the meantime, what they've done is they've developed sort of a new layer to their program. And that is hard-nosed physicality, assignment-sound defense. And they'll never settle for less there again. Well, that's what I wonder about Beamer in South Carolina. This year is what it is. What do they learn from this? What do they get intentional about becoming because of this? And it's not as easy to do at Carolina because you can't acquire talent and top-level coaching talent as quickly as you could at Ohio State. But like you said, Mike Elko ruins that excuse, because if Elko is doing it at Duke, you better be able to do it at South Carolina. You better be able to do it at Clemson. You better be able to do it at NC State. And so that's what I'll be interested in. This year's record is going to be bad. I'll judge him a lot more on next year's record as a result of the decisions that are made in January.
All right, Josh, congratulations to you, sir. Not only, did my bravado embarrass myself going against you in the model, Clemson and Miami, but also, sir, you are one spot away from the top 10 in our upset pick standings. You have 17.5 points. You are in 11th place. The leader does have 35, but as Virginia showed us last week, that is merely one correct long shot pick away from being in first place. Where are you going this week, Josh?
Yep, I'm going to go down to Orlando, and I am going to take West Virginia +7 at UCF.
How about that? I looked at that, Josh. Only reason I didn't, and you were part of the reason, Josh. You're a big intangibles guy, like you picked for Louisville one week against Notre Dame. You picked against them the next week against Pitt. I said to my audience here, I said, Josh doesn't think Pitt would beat Notre Dame, transitive property, right? But he's looking at the situations surrounding those games. West Virginia has lost 2 heartbreaking games in a row, and you got no issue with that.
Oh, no, I actually love it. That's what gives me motivation to bet them. And also remember, that's not just losing 2 games, but the coaching staff is safe. Their jobs are on the line. And so, yeah, I've watched their last 2 games, and they've been up at various points in those games and blew the lead, in one case in horrific last-second fashion at Houston. So I'm going to err on the assumption that Neil Brown has the troops ready to go into battle in Orlando. And I never thought I'd say that sentence, but here we are.
Josh, enjoy the world's largest outdoor cocktail party with some Black Cherry Mio. Have a great time.
Thank you, Mark.
Take care, bud. All right, Josh Pate of the Late Kick Show joining us here on the show, as he always does. Love the interview. He got a kick of that audio. He got a kick out of you. Timestamp this. Listen, guys, next time you hear me say timestamp this, just slap me. Just slap me. Okay? That's not a smart thing to say. That is arrogance and that is bravado.
Yeah, just line up at the front door, press the doorbell button so that we know that you're here. It gives us a little light in the studio, lets us know that somebody's outside, so just line up.
There you go. All right, I make my upset pick next, right here on Offsides. We are the Fan Upstate.
Coming up after the top 5 at 5, your very next chance to win tickets to go to the Ingles Asheville Invitational Basketball Tournament. What a way to kick off the college basketball season than going to see Clemson, Maryland, Davidson, and UAB square off in this tournament. It'll be a blast. You get tickets to both of the preliminary games and both the third place and championship game of this tournament. After the top 5 at 5, we will have you calling in for your chance to win. 844-326-3663.
Oh, there you go. So wait a minute, Diesel. Yeah, all they got to do is call.
Yep.
All they got to do is
That's
call, and then the tickets are in their possession.
Correct.
They're going to have great basketball tickets.
Yep.
They can absolutely use them to as many games as they want.
Come and go as you please.
Come and go as you please.
Go to one day, go to both days.
Go to one game, go to 4.
Yeah.
All you want. And wow, that's a heck of an opportunity. All right, guys, as soon as the top 5 at 5 is over, when you hear the music cut off, you can begin calling in.
We'll tell you to call. We'll tell you when to call in.
We'll tell you to call, and you can grab yourself some good tickets. I wish we were eligible.
We don't even have, this isn't old school radio. We don't have a phrase that pays. You just know to listen for the top 5 at 5 to end. We'll invite you to call back in, and you can win these tickets.
All right, in this hour, we've got Truth Serum coming up at 5:40. In the next segment, there is an undeniable comparison that I'm going to make about a team you really care about, okay? Well, some of you really care about this team. Some others of you hate this team. But there's, at this point, to me, the comparison is inevitable and undeniable. But as for us right now, we've got the top 5 at 5. It's the top 5 biggest sports stories of the day. It's the top 5 topics we're discussing. Ladies and gentlemen of the Upstate Offsiders, the top 5 at 5 starts right now.
And now, the top 5 at 5.
And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hit it.
Payback is a you-know-what, brother.
5.
If I asked you guys who's the best analyst in sports, what would you say? Oh, guys, I really appreciate it. All of you chiming in with Mark Ryan. I kid because I care. The best analyst in all of sports is Charles Barkley. Okay? Charles Barkley. And it's not even close, my friends. And Charles Barkley opened up the NBA season last night in mid-season form. First, what is burning Charles Brownies, and Diesel already has a smug smile on his face, so I know this is good, is Charles Barkley is calling out load management in the NBA. Now, Diesel, this to me is interesting because analytics legislated the stolen base out of baseball, right? I'm sure teams have analytics on how much better their team plays in the postseason if their stars are rested, right? Versus if they played 76, 80, 82 games. So how do you legislate against load management? How do you do that? Well, I've got an idea, Diesel, and the idea is simply that if you have a fully guaranteed contract and you don't play in at least 70 of the 82 games, you lose money.
Yeah.
You lose money on your contract.
Look, you and I have to request days off,
Yep.
and we get a finite amount of days off. The NBA needs to have a vacation policy. You're allowed to take upwards of 10 games off over the course of a season. That's it. You got to play in 72 games, or you got to play in 70 games, or whatever number you want to set. Doesn't matter.
Unless, I would say, Diesel, you have an NBA doctor-confirmed injury
Right.
as to why you can't.
Right.
In which case, you're entitled to your salary. Okay? But if that can't be confirmed by a third-party NBA doctor, not a team doctor, you're gone. Poof. Out of here. Charles Barkley on load management in the NBA.
I'm talking to the players, man. Forget the ownership. Forget the fans. As a player, if you're going to make $50, $60 million a year to play basketball 3 or 4 days a week, play basketball, man. Now, if you're injured, don't play. But everybody hurts after the first 2 weeks of the season. Your legs sore, your knees sore. If you're injured, I don't want you to play. Y'all got the best shoes. You got the best medical staff. You got these guys sleeping in chambers. You got ice baths. Man, if you can play, shut the hell up and play.
There's something so refreshing about him, isn't there?
This makes me want to tune in just for their show and not even watch the games.
Oh, yeah. Well, I do often.
Yeah,
Often,
the
Diesel.
conversation around the game is more interesting than the game itself. Give me Shaq, give me Charles, give me Kenny, give me all these guys on this show cracking on each other, making the game entertaining because the product on the court is boring.
I actually find myself doing that, Diesel. The game starts. Okay, I got to come back in an hour for halftime.
Yeah.
Because they're back out at halftime. Then it's inside the NBA after the game. That's the show that you want to see. Now, Charles Barkley, well, he wasn't high on the Golden State Warriors last postseason. At the All-Star break last season, he got into a tiff with Draymond Green telling him the Warriors were done, and he was kind of right. And Charles Barkley, as you might expect, is doubling down.
The Warriors are the 4th best team in California, in my opinion.
4th best. So you don't. Why do you not think much of Golden State?
Old people don't get better; they just get older. I just don't like their team going forward. They've had a great run, great organization, but the Lakers, Sacramento, and the Clippers are all better than the Warriors.
Well, the irony there is Charles Barkley was on one of those old teams. When he went to the Houston Rockets, Hakeem was old, Clyde Drexler was old, Scottie Pippen was old, Charles Barkley was old, and they sucked. They didn't, so he's got experience there. Fourth best team in California, Diesel, without looking at the map, okay? Who else is out there? You got the Sacramento Queens.
Yep.
Okay, they're one of the ones that's better than them.
The LA Fakers.
The LA Lakers, the LA Clippers.
Yeah.
Right? So that would be 3. That would make them the fourth best team. How about that?
Or the LA Flakers.
That's
you like
better.
Fakers or Flakers better?
Fakers. I'm going Fakers for the win. All right, your words on Charles Barkley. How's this for an interesting clip? Next up.
4.
All right, Josh Pate joined us in the last segment, and he said something that simultaneously, and those of you who are on the YouTube stream may have seen this, made Diesel and I's eyebrows shoot up in unison. All right, like we were synchronized swimmers with our eyebrows. It was crazy. He said, look, Mark, here's one thing I knew about Miami against Clemson last week, Clemson against Miami, that you didn't know. I had a guy study bye weeks last summer. And he said, look, it benefits teams with great coaches. Well, I'm just going to step out of the way, and I'm going to let Josh give you that explanation.
It won't shock you to know the higher caliber coaching staffs benefit disproportionately from the bye week. I'm not sure I call Clemson a high caliber coaching staff right now. And so I thought there'd be a minimal impact. I thought it'd look just like any other week for them. And maybe they got healed up, but I don't think they're overly special athlete-wise right now anyway.
How about that? It benefits great coaching staffs. And Josh Pate doesn't put Clemson in the great coaching staff category right now, which is why he picked Miami, and he ended up being right. Guys, how do you explain that? How do you explain that? Other than to say, tip your cap, Josh Pate. You're right. Clemson, led by Dabo Swinney, is not a special coaching staff right now. Next up.
3.
All right, folks, this Michigan thing is, this is getting uglier and uglier by the day. It started with, this, I'm sure every team does this. Big deal, little deal, or no deal, it's a little deal. Michigan sign stealing scandal. Can you hear Ace of Base playing in your ear right now, by the way? I saw the sign, and it opened up my mind. I saw the sign. Folks, there's a video now that's out, and if you're on social media, I invite you to search for it, on Michigan playing Ohio State last year. Ohio State calls a check on one of their plays. They got this Connor Stalions guy looking at what the check is, making a signal, and then everyone on the bench points up, balls in the air, right? Points up, it's going to be a pass. Michigan trounced Ohio State last year. Then Ohio State almost beat national champion Georgia. How do you explain that? How do you explain Michigan trouncing Ohio State and then Ohio State, the same Ohio State team, almost beating Georgia when Georgia had a month to prepare for them? Folks, what could happen is the Big Ten or the College Football Playoff Committee hands down their own punishments. But the excuses are already everywhere. They're ever-present, ubiquitous from Michigan fans right now. It's a witch hunt against Michigan, they're saying. Well, yeah, there is. But they're finding things on that witch hunt. If a cop searches your car, he shouldn't find anything to incriminate you. Number 4, the rule is dumb. I kind of agree with you. The rule is dumb, but it's still the rule. One of our best female sprinters was banned from the Olympics a year ago because she tested positive for weed. Kind of a dumb rule, but it's the rule. If you are lighting up before the Olympics knowing that it's the rule, you are the dumb one, right? Rule is the rule. Number 3, everyone is doing it, you're saying. Okay, show me evidence. Everyone is doing it. Please, I'll wait. Number 2, Harbaugh didn't know It's his number one. If you're going to believe that, I hope you don't pull a muscle with that stretch. But number two, it's his responsibility as the CEO of the company to know if something like that's going on. And number 5, there's no competitive advantage. Really? Then why are you doing it? Of course, there's a competitive advantage involved. Of course, he knew what was going on. Of course, the rule is dumb. Of course, I don't think Michigan's the only school doing this, but it's helping them out tremendously. And look, there's such a simple fix to this. You make the calls electronic. You don't have people attending games all over the country, right? To try to skimp on something. You don't have them doing that. That's how you handle this. It is. Next up.
2.
At number 2 today on the show. Number 2 today on the show, we have got the following. The MLB postseason. Diesel doesn't believe it needs to be changed. I believe it's a major problem. Josh Pate seemed to side with me, and he echoed all the things that I've said. And Josh Pate, I think, even said, look, you don't need to tell me that the team that played the best at the right time won. You don't need to make that point to me. It's what we've said the whole time, that the greater your sample size is, the more accurate your results. So what's a better sign of who's the best team? A larger sample size, 162 games, or a smaller sample size, 3 games that you get in the postseason. A 5 seed out of 6 seeds in each league, right? The American League has 6 seeds. The National League has 6 seeds. Out of those seeds, we've got a 5 seed and a 6 seed playing in the World Series. That could happen. I understand that could happen. Are you saying they shouldn't have a shot to move up? No, it just happens with such a frequency in Major League Baseball. It's just your World Series is a randomizer. Your World Series winner is a randomizer. Josh Pate suggested just running with 2 playoff teams from each league, the way they did it back in the olden days. Do you think Major League Baseball's postseason needs tweaking? Does that change whether you're a Braves fan or not? And finally,
1.
This is very interesting. South Carolina has lost a 4-star freshman from their team today. Xavier McLeod has left the team, okay? And he's not at practice. He's not showing up. Why? What's going on? His father has spoken up, Herman McLeod, on social media, and he said about his son, Xavier came there to win. He doesn't like losing. He wanted a red shirt to get another year of eligibility. They said, no, you're not going to redshirt this year. So he refused to go to Missouri because if he went on the trip, he would not have been able to redshirt this year. So there was a dispute. He wants to redshirt. You're not really using me. I don't want to blow a year. They're like, no, we need you. He says, I'm not going to Missouri because then I blow my red shirt, right? And I don't know if he was kicked off the team for that or if he himself decided he wouldn't be on the team anymore. But that's apparently what went down. He's no longer on the team. He wishes them the best. He moves on to the next program. His dad says Gamecocks for life. But that is a dispute.
How can you leave a program yet say Gamecocks for life?
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah.
It's more like Gamecocks for as long as it benefits me.
Yep. It's exactly what it is. Exactly what it is. So, guys, you hear that? Who's at fault here? Is it Xavier McLeod for looking out what's best for him? No kidding, Shane Beamer insists that he's going to play. Have you seen who Shane Beamer is playing? Have you seen what's happened to their school, with their team? What's really going on, in my opinion, is Xavier McLeod has doubts about his initial decision. I don't want to blow a year of my eligibility on this dumpster fire. You kidding me? I'm out on that. By the way, folks, your upset picks are also welcome to come in right now. Also welcome. Get your upset picks in for the upset challenge this week. Diesel, what is your official pick now of the week?
My official pick was Miami of Ohio over Ohio.
There you go. And mine is Utah at home against Oregon. How do we do? Who's got a better shot of being right? And those are today's top 5 at 5. Now it's your chance to chime in, which you can do at 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-FANFONE. That's 844-326-3663. The MadWorldAttractions.com text line is there for you at 71307. Just start your text with the word fan and away you go. You can get to us on Facebook, on Twitter, and on YouTube at The Fan Upstate on every one. Please like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and subscribe to us on YouTube. We'd love to have you. And finally, email. You guys can all email the show. Mark Ryan, that is M-A-R-C Ryan at thefanupstate.com. All the different ways you can get in touch with us here on the most interactive sports radio show anywhere.
Ooh, I think Josh is trying to jump the gun. We haven't asked you to call yet, Josh. I see you calling in, probably to try to win these tickets. You jumping the gun, pal. You got to wait for me to ask for your call, which is happening right now. Call 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-326-3663. You could win 2 tickets for the Ingles Asheville Classic. Clemson, UAB, Maryland, and Davidson invited into this tournament. The tournament is Friday, November 10th and Sunday, November 12th. You could call in right now and win 2 tickets to both semifinal games, the third place game, and the championship game. You call in right now, be caller number 4, and you could win tickets to the Asheville Ingles Classic.
There you go, guys. Call in right now. We will get to your calls. All right. And so much more. Good luck in the contest, my friends. And we'll be back right after this on Offsides.
Do you want to say goodbye to the stream?
Can you let me do a read right here, Diesel?
No, I can't. I got to take these calls.
Okay. Guys, I appreciate you. Y'all are the best. Thank you so very, very much. And Madcraft, Mongo, all you guys for checking out the show. We love you. We appreciate you dearly. Okay. We'll talk to you soon.
Offsides. Who's this? Hey, Chris, congratulations. You